How is a changing real estate market going to affect you? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of Note School TV, where every week at 11:05 Central Time, we bring you, well, the most amazing content and the most amazing guests. This week, though, is our monthly update. So this is one of our most anticipated shows of the month, and today will certainly be enlightening for you, right? You're going to love this. But before we do that, let's, well, if you would, just go ahead and hit that like button. Boom, hit it, and let us know that you like what you see. And hey, guys, do me a favor. I know we've got a lot of people that watch, but you don't hit the like. Just go ahead and hit it for me, right? We want to know that you like it. Nobody ever says they don't like it, but go ahead and hit it. And then number two, hit that subscribe button so that you will, so that you can go in and watch all of our Note School episodes as well. And then number three, hit the bell notification, boom, so that you will be, well, you'll be advised every week right before we go live. Also, comments, guys, please send in your comments. We love to see those. Give us some perspective as to what you think. Let us know what you think of the content or something that you really liked about what we had done in that episode or in this episode. But yeah, keep those comments coming. And then if you would like to hear more about what we do at Note School, and remember, what is our motto at Note School? We show you how to close more deals. Yes, that's exactly right. We show you how to close more deals. But if you want to know more, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. So, because this is the monthly update, we will not have news because all of what we're going to talk about today is news and what is going on in the industry. So I'm going to bring on our founder, our chief visionary officer, all around great guy, kind of a retired cowboy, right? He was a cowboy, but he's kind of retired from that, right? Mr. W80 Speed.
Hello, Joe.
You like that cowboy thing?
Yeah, I was kind of a cowboy. I may be better at the note business than I was cowboying, but I sure did enjoy it.
But you were a real cowboy. There is no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Man, we got a market update, Joe, that is probably the most active I can remember in a long time. Maybe about the time when we started, when the virus started and all this weird stuff started happening. That's why we decided we had to do a market update every month.
That's right.
But let me just tell you something, Joe. This is probably an episode that you probably aren't going to turn it off early because some of the craziest stuff is actually at the end.
Yes, it is. And guys, you have our permission to share this with everybody you know. So please do that.
Yeah. Okay, are we ready?
I think we are ready, and I think these guys are ready as well. So let's just jump to it, man.
All right, well, let's talk about the housing market itself. Joe, this different colors here. This represents. Whoops, I meant to use the highlighter. This represents 2020.
Mm-hmm.
This represents 2021.
Right.
And the red represents 2022, right? If you kind of match those up there.
That's right.
So that just kind of gives you a sense of pricing. But this represents, the orange represents 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sliding back.
So it dropped down, well, just 2.7% so far, but we're just kind of in the beginning stages of a lot of this, but down to 371,875.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I just want to tell you guys this: we're not looking for a free for all on owner-occupied residential houses.
No.
We're looking for a free fall of some other things. But this particular asset class, residential houses occupied by the owners, right? Owner occupied, not investment property, not commercial. So, but it's got to slip as well. And Joe, I think one thing that's a big deal is what are happening in payments. So the same thing here that we talked about before.
Yeah, look at that.
This is 21. But look at this year and look at where we are in payments. By the way, that's the note rate, Joe. That is not the effective rate.
Yeah, 6.39 is the note rate. We'll show you what the effective rate is here in just a minute. But yeah, look at that. And Eddie, that is a principal and interest. That doesn't include the taxes and insurance on that $2,573.
By the way, normally the effective rate is going to be 1 to 1.5% higher than that. And that's right. And when we run the stats, it's going to pretty much show that.
That's right. So,
but this is the note rate itself. Of course, there's fees on top of that. But you can see a big jump, and boy, look at that compared to 2020, Joe.
Oof. Boy, those interest rates really do make it. Those 3% interest rates really do make a difference, don't they?
All right, boy, big topic out there, Joe. Banks and lending. People want to know what's going to happen out here, right?
What is up? That's right.
All right, so effective interest rates here. We talked about this just a second ago. So this, Joe, it represents. This is pretty up to date. It's a 30-year fixed. It's a $300,000 loan with 20% down in Texas. And you kind of pick not the highest credit, but somewhere on the higher side.
Yeah.
7.33% effective interest rate. And by the way, FHA is no better.
No.
So this is not the interest rate that's on the note, but it's the effective rate. It's the APR. It's the annual percentage rate after you take all the junk fees and consider that.
And Eddie, if you did have an 800 plus credit score, that would get you about 7.11. So you're still north of 6%.
Joe, what happened to the arms? I don't get
know how that. They just not have any.
An arm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they have no confidence in their modeling, I suppose.
Yeah. Don't get much of a price break for sure.
No, you don't.
All right, Joe, we've done this before, but this shows the average interest rate. And this is what about the time I entered in the industry.
Right.
Rates were like this, that were right at 18%.
Yep.
You look over here, you can kind of see that. And, but the average interest rate overall, and here we are right here, Joe, which is, well,
somewhere around
kind of right in here, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it's in the 7-ish.
So if you kind of run that line, which is below the average, you kind of run that line, you can kind of see that, Joe.
You can.
And you can see, well, we've been there before, but we sure had a big dip starting right in here, Joe, and it kind of didn't change much.
No, it didn't.
So right in here, we kind of entered a zone for a long time. That's from 2010 to 2020. Rates were low, and a lot of times, Joe, they were below the 5% mark, as you can see that.
And Eddie, that reflection of when they started dropping in there really was when the Fed was trying to get us out of the Great Recession, right?
Yeah, so this would have probably been, call it right in here, would have probably been somewhere around 2000, late 2011. So we went for about 9 years with rates below 5%.
Yeah. And I did see the number on that the other day. Yeah, they got down. They didn't get quite to 3, but they got pretty close to 3% there in late 2011, early 2012. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So mortgage credit availability index, Joe, it's below 100. And you can kind of just get a sense. And that's a big point down, Joe. That is an 85% drop, 85 point drop.
And it's almost 50%, Eddie. Well,
yeah,
99, yeah.
It's very close. It's very close.
25%, call it. Yeah.
And I thought I would highlight this because this is 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back and we're wallowing all around where we were from 2011 to 2013. So I would say, Joe, if you feel like Mortgage Banker Association has a lot of confidence in the mortgage industry going forward, then you can sort of see that. Now, this isn't because of rates.
No.
This is the underwriting standard. You still have to qualify for whatever rate it is.
That's right.
And Joe, I thought this was interesting. This is a new chart.
It is. This is the first time we've shown this one. And the other one was the Mortgage Bankers Association. This is the National Association of Realtors, their home affordability index. And that's dropped down below 100 now again, or as well as the credit availability.
So this gives you a sense, as you said, it's below 100. And it kind of dropped there in 22, and now we're in 23, and we can kind of see where we are.
Yeah.
And Joe, look at what it was in, all of this time frame.
Well,
right.
That's it. And when you go back and oh my God, look what it was in 2013 or so. But remember, the rates were low back then, and the prices were low, were still low back then, right?
Look at the affordability factor in 2020 versus the affordability factor and what it did in 22 when the rates started cratering. Remember that little run right there, Joe?
Yep. That's a pretty good drop.
And people say, what happened to real estate? Affordability.
Yeah. Well, I was reading something the other day, Eddie. It said there's 1.6 million realtors, that belong to the National Association of Realtors, and there's about 1.2 million listings. What does that tell you?
So, Joe, this represents the total loan production. If you look at the very last one here, this is the total loan production for Q1 of 2023. Okay. Now, what's interesting is, Joe, that's as low as we were in Q19.
Okay. Right.
But what's changed so much is, Joe, look at the threshold of everybody of really 720 and below.
Right.
Because that's the 720 mark right there.
That's it.
So so really it shows you that the people that are getting a loan are only the best of the best. Joe, right. Look at even literally back in 2003 when they saw lending was so tight.
Yep.
Look at this area right in here.
And that's the 659 and down, right?
Exactly. So if
that was when you had the old Fogomir.
Look at this comparison and look at now this comparison.
Yeah.
It's not even a blip on the screen.
No. And so it went from anybody could get a loan, Fogomir, have a pulse right there in 08, and then it goes and look, there's almost nothing between 08 and 16, 17, 18. There's nothing there.
All right, Joe, what you're describing here is not only do we have a price crunch, but we have a credit crunch.
That's it.
All right, Joe, their credit cards seem to be working well.
They are till they aren't. But I know I'm getting a bunch of pre-approved applications every day. So Eddie, Skylar just turned 18, and she's now getting her pre-approved credit card applications as well.
So consumer debt now surpasses 17 trillion. Okay. And to give you a sense of that, Joe, new mortgages, including refis, not just new purchases, but including refis, totaled $323 billion. So consumer debt, this is the lowest since 2014.
Yeah. Eddie, weren't if I can remember correctly, weren't originations in 2021 over $4 trillion? No, they're over $5 trillion. Then they dropped to $4 trillion. Then they dropped to $2 trillion.
Well, you can see it right there.
Yeah, that's it. Look at that.
That was per quarter, by the way.
That's right. Quarter over quarter. Yep.
All right. A lot of talk about the banks, Joe.
A lot of talk about the banks. So, there's 4,844 federally insured commercial banks in the U.S. They ran some numbers, and 722 of those have unrealized losses of over 50%. Eddie, that means if they close down tomorrow, they would be 50% underwater, right?
Joe, this banking crisis, it is going to affect so much of the market. I don't think people really realize it.
I know.
Now, there's a gigantic opportunity for us.
Yes.
And I want to tell you this. Part of the reason I want to be completely transparent, part of the reason we're pointing this out is because we're licking our chops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We make a lot of money when this happens because this changes the inventory flow of discounted notes the most drastic of anything.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you right now that the inventory flow of notes from May of 22 to May of 23 is unbelievable. And we don't see the train's left the station. It is happening. Right?
It's got to go down the track until it can turn around, right? So it is it's a big deal. And the biggest part of that is it's commercial loans. So
about 5,000 banks, about 20% of them are, quote, insolvent. And I think that number is going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Week after week. All right, Eddie.
Anything going to happen here, Joe?
A little bit.
Joe and I have been suggesting that there is an issue in commercial lending for well over a year. You can go back and backtrack us and we can prove it, right? But we've reached a catastrophic point that we feel like it's time to really unveil it. And Joe, we're going to just do it. We're going to kind of look at where we were a year ago and where we are today. And it's fairly undeniable as to what the issue is.
Let me set the stage here. Eddie, for just a second. Go back so they can't see those numbers. So commercial banks, typically regional banks, are holding about $4.5 trillion in commercial loans. $4.5 trillion. And they have increased they were at about 800 billion in 2012, and so now they've gone from that to where they are today. And smaller banks, regional banks, hold 67% of commercial loans.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a big deal. I mean, the growth in commercial lending by particularly regional and community banks is pretty unbelievable.
Yep.
And for sure, it is a number that is growing, that has grown. But now all of a sudden, Joe, we're going to talk about where they've adjusted their underwriting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So loan to value. Okay. Loan to value is pretty simple, Joe. If the property is worth 100, the lender has been willing to loan between right in here, 70 to 80%. This was in 2022.
A year ago.
Joe, this year, they're loaning at this rate. They've dropped their loan to value that much. And I want to show you something else, Joe. If the top line represents what the property is worth,
mm-hmm.
You know what this represents? The level of cash anybody would have to put into a commercial deal to be able to get a loan.
So you're saying that 20 to 30, or 40 to 50% versus 20 to 30. That's a big swing.
I mean, I don't know if you can see that yellow well, you can see that's a big void. And this is a big variable. Joe, on a $1 million project, you'd have to spring for $450,000 in cash. Do the math. Just add a zero to it. Whatever you want to do. It's just it is choking commercial real estate.
For sure.
And why is that? Well, as rates have increased year over year,
yeah,
it's sucked the cash flow out of a deal, and then for that, the lenders have cut back on what they're willing to loan. I want to make a comment about these rates. These are the best rates.
Yes.
The worst rates get way worse.
They're pretty ugly. They're over 10%. Depending on
we didn't even try to average this, because this is the good projects.
Yeah.
The ones that are questionable are out of sight.
These are top A class. They're grade A borrowers.
Now, Joe, this talks about the rate reset. So loan resets are not quite double, but they're way more than they probably are 80% more than they were a year ago.
You know, Eddie, I was looking at something else when we were doing some research on this today. And so the benchmark over the last couple of years has been about a 4% cap rate. So when a guy that had gotten a loan back, 3 years ago, and they had a 3% or 3-year reset, and it was 3%, and they were making a little bit of money. But what happens then when the rates go up, Eddie?
Well, this is the problem. And obviously loan resets, or the rate, the loans that are in place, but they're having a rate adjustment, and they're due this year and they're due next year, they're headed to a bad spot. Right. And that's clearly the case. Joe, this is actually, believe it or not, guys, this is the most probably important number.
Yep. And
here's why this is true. So this is the debt service coverage ratio. Now, for those of you that are familiar with commercial real estate, you're like, this is simple as it gets. Joe, 1 right here, this is break even.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So everything below here is debt service. So everything below that line is what it takes to pay the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Everything above that line is profit.
Mm-hmm.
So the lender wants to make sure that their borrower is making a profit. And last year, they wanted a 20% profit on top of what it makes to cover the debt. This year, Joe, they are expecting you to make 60% above the line. Oh, and by the way, if you can't hit that number, it doesn't matter what the loan to value was. It ain't enough. It ain't enough cash down.
And Eddie, there's one other metric that we could talk about real quick as well. In that, you got to look at the vacancy rate. I mean, I've been told that, a couple of years ago, the vacancy rate could be 50, it could be, or the occupancy rate could be 50 to 60%. Now, if you don't have 75 to 80 plus, you're probably not going to get it either.
So when you look at these ratios, it becomes fairly obvious. What do commercial lenders know that we don't know yet?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is about the most dramatic underwriting variables that you could look at. I mean, this is just year over year, right? And Joe, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but you can go on Facebook and some of these commercial real estate promoters, they've got some projects that are amazing,
mm-hmm.
according to what they're saying.
Yeah, would you like to invest in?
Anyway, I'm not saying every deal's I'm not saying every deal's a bad deal. I'm just simply showing you that when we say the train has left the station on commercial, we just wanted to show you some data facts as to why we're making that interpretation, right? So, Joe, I'm going to flip back through these again. I'm going to go over these. This is loan to value. This is, Joe, right here. This is skin in the game.
That's it.
Call that cash.
They used to have a saying down here in the water management business. It's called shared adversity.
I like that.
Yeah, right. We'll loan you. You put up half. We'll put up half. How about that?
So that's loan to value.
Mm-hmm.
These are rates, and rates obviously change the payment. These are loan resets this year versus last year. These are people that are going to have a rate adjustment in their loan. And this is the debt service coverage ratio. This is where the lender forces you to say, look, you can't have a marginal profit and us be willing to loan you the money.
Right.
Okay. So all of this, Joe, leads to this, which is the CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities. And this is a pretty daunting headline here. Down 80%.
Mm-hmm. In one quarter.
Okay, next variable. And if you look at it, these are different kind of loan types that they break them into and stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's none of them that are good, Joe.
No,
they're all down. They're all down a huge amount. And obviously we see that coming. And this is just year over year. Once again,
large loans, you go from 13.1 million to 442 million.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. So this was in Markets Insider. Commercial real estate lending plunged 56% last quarter, right? And we discussed this on another Note School TV show, but we decided to bring this back. Mm-hmm. We just had a kind of a news item, but we decided to bring this back because it shows you the result of all of this underwriting and all this increase in rates and all these other variables. It shows you the result of it. Mm-hmm. And office and apartment buildings have faltered. High rates continue to weigh. Joe, and there was I know you were reading a article in the last day or so that with really, somebody that was given an overall view, and they're saying the basically values have adjusted 15 to 25% down.
That's my notes right here. 15 to 25%. Yep.
Look, banking situation, investment property overall, not just commercial, but even houses, they've all been seriously affected. And when you see this happen, here rises opportunity, right? This is, for us, this market interruption equals opportunity. It's exactly what it does, right? Let's talk about rentals for a moment. Joe, rent is dropping.
Yep.
And so this is April of 23, and rent is down. And it's a quarter of a point. It's not like
That's in a month, Eddie.
It's in 1 month.
Yeah.
And I think the belief is that's going to continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where that came from. Yeah.
But bottom line is, in April, there was the rent, and month over month, it's up year over year, but it's now not going the right direction.
Now it's reverse directions.
Yeah. Okay, so what this really shows, Joe, is really what we're saying. Not all residential is the same. We've had almost 40% of residential properties owned by investors, and those investors, or at least the institutional investors, they bought 90% less properties than they did in the first 2 months of 23.
And that's right. And Eddie, these American homes for rent. So these are all net sellers. They're not buying right now. It says in the first quarter, buying 312 homes and shredding, getting rid of almost 700. A year ago, they bought 1,100 and sold 170.
Yeah. So if you look at what they're buying and selling, their sell rate is far outpacing their buy rate.
And then that second one there, Invitation Homes, that was a spinoff of was it Blackstone spun them off. They started them. They're the largest owner of single family rentals in the U.S. They were a net seller. They bought 190 houses and sold 297. Last year, they were at 822 buys and 147 sellers. And that last one, Yield Street.
Hold on a minute. I'm going to draw you a little chart.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. I'll slow down then.
All right. So this was their buys.
And their sales.
Sold. And then where were they last year on that?
They were 670 on the let's see. Okay, let me go back here. So first quarter, they sold 666 and bought 312. And then Invitation.
That was Invitation, right?
Yep, sold 300 and bought 190.
So this is why they're saying they're net sales, right? They bought zero, but they're selling more than they're buying.
Now listen to this, Eddie. This is Yield Street, which is that third one. They own over 700 single family rentals. They haven't bought one this year in 2023, and they said that rates would have to fall to around 4%. And home prices would have to dip about 15% before they will buy another house.
Got it. So if you want to know, and of course, the math that they're operating with is the same math that people are operating with to buy rentals. So if you want to know why the house flipping business has had such a dramatic increase, is because, if you went back a year and a half ago, most people that were wholesaling houses were wholesaling a house that was being bought for investment purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the wholesaling business was so dramatically affected, right? Is because the same reason, kind of like commercial. I mean, the math just fell out of the deal because of the cost of money made it not a profitable deal, right? And the cost of the house, of course. So
the money, the house, and then the rent's going down a bit, adjusting down a bit. Yeah.
And what happened to the expenses, right?
Yeah. Taxes are up, insurance is up, everything is up.
All right, let's talk about foreclosure in the mortgage market. So, Joe, this is, I'm going to just sort of quickly get us to the bottom line on this.
Right.
And that is, this is, of course, Black Knight. Same guys that we've quoted all along the way in this. Has a good chart with good data. This is the number of loans that are 30 plus days delinquent, and we're just under 2 million. Okay. And so, Joe, we've looked back, you know, kind of call it in December, and we were like at a 2,030,000, call it that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So we're about 50,000 different. So it's dropped as far as the number of total loans that are delinquent in the last few months. But what we're trying to say is there's no save for these loans.
Yeah. These
loans are not fixable because the number's not dropping.
That's right.
And this is, we believe, going to be predominantly the inventory of non-performing loans that are going to get traded in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Joe, a lot to say.
Yeah, that was, lot to say.
All right. Everything we said today is why we teach what we teach. What we teach today is relevant to how to seize an opportunity or mitigate the risk in these scenarios, using creative financing, note buying, all of these things that clearly are going to become drastically more important than they were in the past, or certainly in the past, you know, look back over the past couple of years. And so, Joe, I'm going to let you finish this up here, and we'll talk about maybe what people could do if they decided they like this.
That's exactly right. So, number one, make sure and share this with your friends, please. Everybody needs to know what's going on out there, so share it. And guys, listen, we have a 2-hour masterclass that is amazing. Eddie does that along with Max Keller, who is our chief market officer. Really, really sharp young man. And Eddie and Max do this 2-hour masterclass. We'll let you come. It'll be on us, right? Won't be any charge to come to that 2-hour masterclass. And Eddie and Max are just going to take you through a process of showing you some deals, showing you what others are doing out there in the marketplace, and just getting you ready to make that decision whether you want to continue on in training with us. And we know you do, right? So, in order to find out more about that, just go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, it's noteschool.com/TV. And just put in the subject line, just put in there, or just let them know that you want to attend a master class. I want to attend one of Eddie and Max's master class. So do that. We'd be happy to have you in. You'll love it, right? And that's it. You guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Talk to you later.